Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cartoon Season. I'm Tyler, and today I'm talking about Kaguya, Love is War. Gonna do pretty much the entire show up until this point. I'm gonna mostly focus on Season 3 because that's the one that's fresh in everybody's minds. But I'll also touch on Season 1 and 2. But I feel like all three seasons are great, and they kind of, they tell one story, so it's not like anything's being left out here. So I want to talk about that because, like I said, the season 3 just ended. We also got confirmation season 4 is being made, which is always good. I just want to touch on a couple of things. I do want to touch on kind of the main kind of war that Kaguya and the president are having, as well as these side characters, which I think really help the show. I think that they help it stay fresh, and make it so it's not just Kaguya and the president the whole time. They kind of flesh out the world a little bit, so I want to talk about that. And then also briefly, let's mention season 4, right? Let's kind of talk about what season 4 could be with everything that's happened so far, not only at the end of season 3, but all of them in general. So, let us start. So we're gonna start with Kaguya and the president, them having their war, right? That's the main theme. That's basically the entire show. But I want to talk about some moves that each of them have made, in particular, ones that kind of stand out to me. And as they build on top of each other, getting to the very pivotal moment, the show's climax up until this point, which is the end of the third season. So in the beginning, the whole premise is that they like each other, and they pretty much know that the other one likes them as well. But there's like something in them that they're not allowing themselves to confess to them first. They need the other one to confess, because then they win. That is where the war comes in, where it's like, no, you're gonna confess to me, because that means, I don't know, I'm stronger than you. I don't really know why, why it makes sense, because it really doesn't. But in their dumb, I don't know, teen brains, they're just like, yes, this is the way. This is how we do this. And so some examples of them trying to bait the other one, they try to get the other to ask for their line ID. Because obviously if you're the first one to ask, then that insinuates something, doesn't it? It insinuates that, well, why would you want my ID? Why would you want to talk to me possibly after school, after club, So that's really funny of them trying to go through and bait the other one. Another thing they do is they try to get the other to open an umbrella first, because it's like raining outside and they're kind of walking home. And again, it's like it's a weird, like, twisted way to think about it, about the situation. But it's like, oh well, if I open the umbrella for them, then that means that, I don't know, I care about them more than I should, and that must mean that I love them, and that must mean that that's basically a confession right there. Even though it's not, but it's just funny every time that something as mundane as opening the umbrella, because at the very least they are friends, like outwardly to each other and everyone else that knows them. So it's not like it wouldn't be weird for you to open an umbrella for your friend and be like, hey, I don't want you getting wet, when I clearly have the tool that we spent, I don't know, decades, hundreds of years developing to stop this very act. I don't think it's weird. I don't think it's odd. I don't think it insinuates anything. What else we got? We got the president visiting Kaguya at home when she's sick. That's pretty much a big moment, because I don't think the president has ever been over Kaguya's before that time, and it does kind of show that he really does care about her. Again, I think most, if not all, of these acts, whether they're executed or not, I think it can just be looked at as friendship, because a friend would do that for another friend. But I think this, with us knowing their feelings for each other, I think this is a very sweet moment, because the president does go over there and kind of, make sure she's okay and all that, tries to take care of her a little bit. And then there's also like a very like drunken state in which Kaguya has like her cold or whatever, where I don't remember the line exactly, but she does kind of let something slip, that she, even if it's something like very plain, as if just like, oh, like I'm very happy that you're here or whatever, but even that is like, it is slowly building. You know how like This is something that I think happens a lot in real life, more so in cartoons. But you know how you have like it's snowing or it's snowed, lots of snow on the ground, and you're on the top of a hill, and so then you make a little snowball and you roll it, and as the snow goes down the hill, it gathers more snow, and the snowball gets bigger and bigger until it's a boulder, right? That's kind of what's happening throughout this entire show, is that it's just very small things that aren't weird. Again, like the whole line ID thing, that's not weird for you to ask, because at the very least you guys are friends. Like, it would be different if they were strangers to each other and they weren't in the same friend group and they weren't, you know what I mean, they weren't in the same club, you know, like that would be a situation in which I think it's okay, or it even makes sense for someone to look at them doing certain things and being like, oh, maybe he likes her, she likes him, but they're friends. Like, it's okay. It's okay to want to talk to each other outside of school. And then what else we got? We got Kaguya offering the president a hand massage, which is like in her mind, it's like the least like leading type of massage that you can give someone. So there's nothing on her end of any sort of attachment, but a massage is physical contact, and she's hoping that it'll make the president feel good, so that she will, or so that he will be physically attracted to her. Crazy scheme, you know. It always seems like Kaguya is scheming something, you know. Like, for me, and maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but like the president doesn't really scheme too much. I feel like, especially in relation to Kaguya, where like Kaguya always seems to have like a plan, like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do, where the president just kind of stumbles into things, you know. What else we got? We got them getting locked in the sports equipment room. That was a very big moment, because they got very close physically, and again, it was another one of those moments where it's like they have the knowledge. Not only do they know they like them, but they know the other one likes them back. So it's just like, for them to have a moment like that where they get close to each other and they have like a moment, right? Which would be a moment in any other romance anime. But in this one, they just have to brush it off each other, you know? We also got Kaguya, who doesn't know the read or the read feature on phones. Where again, that's, you know, most phones, at least nowadays, when you send a message and the other person reads it, it'll send a read receipt. That way you know that person read your message. You know, it's a very, very useful feature. You know, I like it because you get to know when they see it, especially if it's just like a message you want to get to them. Like, if it doesn't require a response back, then I don't need a response back. I'll just be able to see that you read it. You know what I mean? But in this, it's funny because the president is sending her messages, or just sent like a few messages. It's not a lot. And Kaguya's been reading them, but she hasn't been responding back, because in her mind, she's like, this is the perfect situation where I can read his messages and know that he's like thinking about me or asking about me or whatever. But I have time to get to them when I get to them. But that's not how that works, because he can see that you've read them. So now he knows that you've just been sitting in his messages for minutes, hours at this point. You know, like, it's been an hour since he sent his first message. You know what I mean? So it's it's like she's just completely oblivious. You know, and she gets saved by I. You know, but it's very funny that, again, she's scheming. You know, the president is just kind of want to talk to her, and she has this scheme of like, ooh, I'm gonna think of the perfect response. I'm gonna have time to do it. That's not how it works, though. Not how it works. We live in a fantastic age of technology, with both good and bad. The president decides if Kaguya doesn't confess before the culture festival, then he will confess. Now, this is a big moment, and already we're moving into season 3. This is huge because the whole time there's been this war, and that's kind of been the whole point of the show, is that I'm not going to confess first. He will, or she will, you know. But now we're kind of reaching a deadline where, you know, with his whole thing with Stanford, you know, he knows that this is going to be the last culture festival he's ever at. So he knows that if she doesn't respond, if she doesn't confess to me, then I have to, because then what if neither of us do? What if we just kind of filter off and nothing ever happens because we're waging this war with each other? Again, it's a big turn. I didn't know that would ever happen. I wasn't really seeing it, but I am glad it happened. A little bit further into that, Kaguya does get the president to make her a heart-shaped balloon, which is big because it's her scheme. It's her scheme, because it's the whole thing where it's like, around the culture festival, if a student, there's like this superstition or whatever, right, where if a student gives another student a heart-shaped gift, then 1, that's a confession, and 2, it's like they're meant to be together or whatever. So she's like, ooh, I'm gonna get him to make me a heart-shaped balloon because that's basically a confession. But then the president, I don't know if that was his plan all along, but the president does have a response to that, where actually the way that you can pay for a heart-shaped balloon is with another heart-shaped gift. And so now Kaguya's backed in a corner, and she chickens out, and she just pays with the balloon. She pays for the balloon with the cash instead. So she chickens out, and she also doesn't get the satisfaction of the moment of the president giving her a heart-shaped gift. So it doesn't count. And then we get towards the very end, man. Towards the very end where it happens. The Mad Lads did it. The president asked Kaguya to go to Stanford with him, which is a very roundabout way of confessing to her. He doesn't directly confess his feelings to her, but these lines are not very hard to read between. They both understand what he's saying when he does that, and she accepts. It's very nice. And then she turns right back around and cranks it up to 11 basically, and kisses the president in that moment, and basically like, now you know my feelings for you. So yeah, that is kind of how the war ends in my mind. I do have a couple thoughts on it that I'll get into when I talk about season 4. But that is the war, right? We go through, there's all these kind of little back and forths of mostly tame things that they kind of amp up in their own mind, which is where the comedy part of this romance comedy anime comes in. But it ends in the best way possible, in the way that I think we all could have seen, where it's like, yeah, eventually one of them's going to confess, and it's just going to happen because it has to. Like, they're made for each other. It's inevitable. Like Thanos, it is inevitable. But now there are thoughts, and again, not quite getting into it yet, but there are thoughts as to where the show goes now that the war is over. But before we get into that, I do want to touch on the side characters, because like I said, I do think the side characters add a certain level of depth to this show, where I think if the side characters were garbage, I think the show would get old very quickly, because there'd be too much focus on Kaguya and the president, and if there wasn't enough focus on them and we were going to Chika or Ishigami or something, and they were garbage, we'd be like, we don't care about this scene. Please just move on to the next scene with Kaguya and or the president. But it doesn't do that. So we have people like Chika, and one of my favorite things she does throughout this show is she helps the president with stuff. She just feels like she has a duty to help the president, because she feels like the president is lame in so many ways. So one of them is that she helps the president with volleyball, to kind of make him look good in front of everyone, even Kaguya. It doesn't go very well, but that is kind of her, a huge side to her character, is always getting involved in the president's, his own plans and, his own schemes that I don't like calling schemes, because you can't really call anything a scheme when you look at Kaguya, you know what I mean? She teaches the president how to sing, right? Another thing where he wants to look good in front of not only Kaguya but everyone, because he has to sing I forget what it is he has to sing. It's sing like the school's theme song or whatever. Again, doesn't go well. He can't sing, But Chika's there to be there and be nice and to help out. And then the final thing with her that she helps out with is she teaches the president. Well, she doesn't teach the president. Her and the president teach each other to rap, because Chika doesn't really know anything about rap. President does. President listens to it all the time, knows all about it. But the president wants her to teach him how to rap better. And I feel like now you're starting to see like the paradox we have reached, where it's like, if I'm Chika, I would love to teach you, but I don't know how. So instead, the president teaches her everything there is to know about rap. She gets really good, and then Chika has to teach him how to rap. And it's like, wait, how this doesn't make sense. If you taught me how to do the thing, you should be able to teach yourself how to do the thing. Everything I know is from you, so how can I teach you something with all of my knowledge on the thing is from you? It doesn't make sense. But it does kind of work. To do kind of teach each other how to do it. And let me tell you, president still not good, but he does get his point across, when he does it in front of Kaguya and I. So I guess it's a win. We got more characters though. We got Kaguya harshly tutoring Ishigami. Ishigami's a great character. We just have that little bit there where Ishigami wants to get better at school, and Kaguya tutoring him, but she's like very harsh and very strict. The classic like drill sergeant approach. So that's a very funny moment, or a very funny like little task that we have them both involved in. And it also does help them kind of grow their bond as friends, which is nice because it's not really something you think about. Also with Ishigami, you have him and Miko always supporting each other. This is very nice. Again, it's another relationship that I do want to go further. One that's obviously aside from the main one, which is Kaguya and the president. Because on the outside, it's very like, it's almost like they're both tsunderes. It's like almost how the relationship is. But deep down, we see flashbacks of them always helping each other out. Whenever their image was tarnished or whatever, like they were always going around talking to people, be like, no, that's not how it is. Like he's cool or she's cool. Don't think that or don't say that. So that's very sweet. We have Ishigami trying to help Miko, seeing she doesn't plug in her headphones. That was a very intense moment where, I'm sure that's happened to all of us at one point where we thought our headphones were plugged in, but they weren't all the way. It starts playing and you freak out for a second. So he has this whole kind of back and forth instead of what he's going to do. And it's really tough because then Miko's not only listening to music, she's listening to like positive affirmations, which is way worse. It's way worse. And then Ishigami kind of sacrifices himself. He falls on the blade, only for Miko to then pick up that blade and fall on it herself. which is really funny. Let's see. Stepping off of them for a hot second. We do have Kai, who is the president's sister. I think it's his older sister, I believe. And we have some fun moments with her. The one that I wrote down was that she hates all the president's casual clothing, because it's just awful. It's just out of date. The president never really wears casual clothing. He doesn't really do anything. He kind of just is at school and then club and then home. So it's just funny to see her, just like her face of disgust at all of his clothes. Just, the kind of like older sister kind of relationship. Jumping back to Ishigami, we do have some more consequences, right? Where Ishigami gives a heart-shaped cookie to Tsubame, unknowingly confessing to her. He is just oblivious, doesn't realize that he confessed not only in that moment, but in front of many, many other students. And everyone's just like, how could he so blatantly do this? Meanwhile, you go inside of his head, and it's just one of those monkeys clapping the cymbals together. He doesn't understand. He's just like, I don't know, Tsubame mentioned it, and I figured she wanted it, so I won it for her. That's all it was. So that's nice, because again, not quite a love triangle. because we kind of have this awkwardness where Tsubame can't give Ishigami an answer. She doesn't really know. Like at first she's not like super into him, and then I think like one of her friends is into him, so that makes it tough for her. But then the more she hangs out with him, the more she realizes how like nice of a person he is, on multiple levels. So it's really tough for her. So again, not quite a love triangle. I mean, me personally, I am rooting for him and Miko. I think they've had each other's backs for so long, and they secretly do really like each other. Especially with the very end where Ishigami gives Miko a heart-shaped pendant. Again, not really knowing what it means. He just figured that she would like it. And she blushes and stuff, and Ishigami doesn't notice, but like you can clearly tell that Miko has feelings. And then even further than that, just piling on the very nice things that he's doing for her, he took a video of the bonfire because Miko wasn't able to see it because she's on like patrol or something. And so he shows her video of the bonfire, which is really nice. It's a very considerate thing, because it's a nice moment. It's a thing. Everyone loves it. Everyone sings and dances around the fire. And she wasn't able to see it, so now they watch a video of it together, and you can tell Miko's just like, man, you're really oblivious, huh? You really don't understand what you're doing and like what it's saying, But yeah, that's kind of touching on the side characters that we have and how they do help flesh out the show and the story and give it variety, which I think it needs. Because I think if it, like I said, I think if it wasn't there, I think if we only focused on Kaguya and the President, I think it would get one note very fast. And if they did ever cut away to other characters that we didn't care about, it would drag out the show, and it would make it so the show felt like it had filler when it's not necessary. So, but yeah, finally, moving on to season 4. I don't have a lot of stuff, but I do have a few kind of questions that I am thinking about, finishing the season. I'm thinking about if they'll go public, because we do have the end there where they clearly have not told them about what happened, and then they're like slightly holding hands like behind the desk so the other club members can't see it. So it's like, okay, so in that moment they haven't said anything to anyone yet. I wonder if they'll go public. I wonder if they will still or if they'll hide it. I don't know. I feel like all of their friends are aware of the feelings towards each other, so I don't think it'd be a surprise. Like, I think if they said it, if they told everyone, they'd be like, man, finally, like we've been waiting. Which again molds into my next question, which is, how will the war continue? Because I don't think it can at its current state. Unless they were to not go public and they were to feign that the war continues, but I think that would be weird. I think most likely the war. See, I don't know, because even at the end, Kaguya said that her job isn't done because technically President did not confess to her. He didn't actually say the words. And I guess Kaguya didn't either, and it's more so like the President did by asking to go to Stanford, and then the Kaguya did with the kiss. So it's like, it's a very like sidestepping, it's like, okay, there's never been a bigger example of beating around the bush, so like, I don't know, I guess the war could continue. I mean, maybe the war will evolve into them getting the other one to do romantic things for them, like trapping the other one into like displaying their feelings, I think that could be fun. I don't know. And the last question I have is, who are y'all rooting for? I already made my stance clear. I'm rooting for Miko, but anyone out there rooting for Tsubame? I don't have anything against her. I think she's cool. I think she's nice. She deserves love. But her feelings clearly aren't all the way there. She's conflicted, and I don't know. I just think Ishigami and Miko are a better couple. I just think they're nicer together. But yeah, let me know what you think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how this goes. either way, I'm sure everyone will be happy. you know. But yeah, that is pretty much it for Kaguya. Love is War. First 3 seasons. Obviously, season 3 is more pertinent, with it being the most recent one. But all 3 seasons are fantastic. You know, I remember watching the show, and the first season didn't grab me too much. Like, I remember people were going crazy. You know, mostly because it was and it still is, a manga that people were fan favorite. You know, so obviously when a anime adaptation of a fan favorite manga comes out, it is one of the most anticipated. You know. But the first thing that didn't really grab me too hard, I was like, yeah, this is cool. It seems like a very, you know, it has its quirks, obviously, but there wasn't anything like, I don't know, like it wasn't those shows where it's like, oh man, I can't wait for season 2. I was like, oh yeah, when season 2 comes out, I'll watch it. Season 2 really grew on me, and season 3 really, like, you know, it was a punch, you know, where it's like, oh no, this is, you know, it took me longer than you know, most people, but 3 seasons in, I was finally like, okay, this might be one of, if not the greatest rom-com anime of all time. And that's saying something, because some of my absolute favorite shows of all time are rom-coms. So, but yeah, let me know what y'all thought of the first 3 seasons. Let me know what you thought of the confessions. Let me know what you think the next season's gonna be. Obviously, if you read the manga, then you already know. But for my fellow anime watchers out there, you know, what are your thoughts? What do you think? But yeah, that'll be it for today. Make sure to check out more episodes of Cartoon Season. Links for everywhere you can find every episode will be in the description as always. Check out some other content as well. I also do reactions, mostly to animated related things. And also do gameplays. Recently, I finished Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And I don't know when this episode will go up. But yeah, I did some Ratchet and Clank, and I got some more stuff coming. So, and yeah. Until next time, let's all patiently wait for Kaguya Love is War Season 4, and let's watch some other anime and let's watch some other cartoons.